Dolph got killed on camera. Jook got killed on camera. You know.
It all started with one moment that nobody could forget. Young Dolph got taken out on camera and the streets watched. Big Jook, Yo Gotti's older brother, was tied to that tragedy. But when Big Jook himself got caught outside a funeral, everything changed. This isn't just a story about music. It's about loyalty, betrayal, and how decisions from years ago can come back in ways no one expects. Big Jook, 47, walked into a repast to honor a family member. He was wearing black, moving through the crowd, talking to loved ones. And then, just like that, the shots rang out. The world saw it all on camera. For the people watching, it was shocking. For Yo Gotti, it was personal. The same street that watches, judges, and remembers had now witnessed another life cut short in front of everyone. And the cycle? It didn't stop with Big Jook. By the end of this story, you'll see how a decade-old dispute, a rejected deal, and the twists of fame and street life set the stage for a series of events that nobody could ignore. The story of young Dolph, Big Jook, and Yo Gotti starts long before anyone imagined the tragedies that would follow. Back in 2014, the seeds of tension were planted. Yo Gotti, already a rising star in Memphis rap and the head of his label, CMG, reached out to young Dolph. The offer was simple on paper: join the CMG roster and take your career to the next level. But for Dolph, it wasn't that simple. Dolph had built Paper Route empire from the ground up. Independent, self-made, and fiercely protective of his hustle, he didn't need anyone else to validate his grind. When Gotti came with his pitch, Dolph said no. And not just politely, he made it clear he wanted to run his own path. The rejection wasn't personal to the fans or the streets, it was principle. He didn't want to owe anyone or have his success tied to someone else's name. Their first meeting had been memorable. Dolph went into the studio to discuss a deal, expecting a standard conversation. But Gotti's approach caught him off guard. He started criticizing his own artist, comparing Dolph to others, and trying to push him towards CMG by throwing someone else under the bus. For Dolph, this was a red flag. Trust and respect were everything in the streets. If a man could throw his own people under the bus, what did that say about loyalty? Dolph left that meeting and never looked back. Over the next couple of years, the tension simmered. Publicly, Gotti said there was no beef. He called it marketing, nothing more. But the streets read the situation differently. Dolph didn't let things go quietly either. By 2016, the conflict began spilling into music and social media. Diss tracks were released, subtle shots were fired in lyrics, and fans watched every move. What may have started as a business disagreement now became personal. There were other perspectives too. Some Memphis OGs claimed the initial spark wasn't even about a deal. It was over a woman. Others believed it was a combination of business, pride, and personal issues. Whatever the root cause, by 2016, it was clear. Things had escalated far beyond a failed record label pitch. Then came the first signs of violence. In early 2016, Black Youngsta, a CMG artist, released a diss track that directly referenced Dolph. Shots were fired outside Dolph's neighborhood in South Memphis, and videos circulated showing men armed and ready. The streets paid attention. The message was clear: disrespect Dolph, and there would be consequences. Despite all this, Dolph survived. He kept his focus, kept producing music, and kept building Paper Route empire. Meanwhile, Yo Gotti continued growing CMG, signing new talent, and expanding his influence in Memphis and beyond. But the tension between these two forces remained. The feud was no longer just about music or money. It was about respect, reputation, and survival in a city that watched closely. Fast forward to November 17th, 2021. Young Dolph, now a well-known independent artist with a loyal fan base, went to a local bakery he had supported for years. It was a routine stop: grab some cookies, show love to a local business. But the routine turned deadly. Two men approached his vehicle and opened fire. Surveillance footage captured every moment. Dolph suffered multiple gunshot wounds and later died. The city, the fans, and the rap community were in shock. The investigation revealed a tangled web. Prosecutors alleged that Big Jook, Yo Gotti's older brother, had placed a $100,000 bounty on Dolph's life. 4 men were later indicted, and one, Justin Johnson, was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison. Cornelius Smith, one of the shooters, cooperated with authorities and provided testimony linking the plot back to Big Jook. The courtroom drama made the connections between Dolph, Big Jook, and Yo Gotti public for the first time. But here's the detail that added another layer to the story. Big Jook never faced trial. By the time Justin Johnson went to court, Big Jook was already dead. The streets had already caught up to the violence, but the legal system had yet to resolve it. And the pattern? It was clear that violence had followed the conflict from its earliest days. Big Jook had continued living in Memphis, building his reputation alongside his brothers. He worked, mingled with family and friends, and seemed untouchable. But history has a way of catching up. On January 13, 2024, Big Jook attended a repast, a meal held after a funeral. He was paying respects to a relative, Eric Boven, who had passed away just days earlier. This should have been a safe space, a moment for family and reflection. But it wasn't. While moving through the crowd, greeting loved ones, and wearing a black suit, Big Jook was shot multiple times. Surveillance footage, again, captured the scene. The chaos, the panic, the heartbreak, it was all recorded. Big Jook died, and his death shook Memphis. The streets noticed the chilling irony. Dolph had died on camera, and now so had Big Jook. The same pattern, the same public nature of the violence, echoed a warning no one could ignore. The authorities investigated, released images of a white Ford Explorer believed to be involved, and tracked leads. But as of now, no suspects have been officially charged. The mystery remains unsolved, leaving questions about who orchestrated the hit and why. For Yo Gotti, this was deeply personal. He had spent years building his empire and protecting his family. His public philosophy emphasized pulling yourself and your people out of the streets, achieving success without getting caught in cycles of violence. Yet despite his wealth, influence, and efforts, tragedy had still found him. A deal rejected nearly a decade ago, a feud played out in music and social media, and a chain of violence escalated to the point where the streets themselves became the stage. Lives were lost, reputations shattered, and yet the lessons of loyalty, respect, and principle remained as sharp as ever. This is just the beginning of the story. What happened next and how the fallout from Big Jook's death would ripple through Memphis, the rap community, and the families involved. It's a story that continues, and it's as chilling as it is real. After Big Jook's shocking death in January 2024, Memphis was buzzing. Everyone who had followed the feud between young Dolph and Yo Gotti felt the weight of it. This wasn't just another street incident. This was the culmination of years of conflict, of grudges, and of lives tangled in ambition and pride. The streets, the blogs, and even casual fans kept replaying the footage, analyzing the surveillance videos, and debating the motivations. One thing was painfully clear. The cycle of violence had claimed another life. Yo Gotti, now in his 40s and sitting on an empire, had always preached a philosophy that success was about escape, not confrontation. The man had built a net worth nearing $100 million, invested in businesses, restaurants, and even a stake in DC United, a major league soccer team. CMG, his label, was thriving with artists like Glorilla crossing over to mainstream radio, while Moneybagg Yo and Key Glock were dominating streaming charts. On paper, Gotti had everything he had ever wanted, but the loss of his brother reminded him that street life never fully lets go. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Dolph had died on camera. Big Jook died on camera. Both deaths were captured in real time by surveillance footage. Both became viral moments, dissected endlessly online. Social media exploded with reactions, memes, and speculation. For years, Gotti had tried to maintain a low profile in Memphis, keeping the business side of CMG separate from street-level drama. But Big Jook's death forced the city to look at the human cost of decades-long conflicts. Backtracking, the feud's roots went even deeper. Dolph had rejected Gotti's offer in 2014, but that rejection wasn't just a one-time event. It became a symbol of independence and street credibility. Gotti's public stance was always calm, measured. In interviews, he said he had no personal issue with Dolph, but the streets don't operate on official statements. They operate on action, reputation, and consequences. The disrespect, perceived or real, had lingered in the air for years. By 2016, the musical exchanges turned into open hostility. Diss tracks, videos, and public jabs became a new battlefield. Black Youngsta's Shake Some and Dolph's counter moves weren't just music, they were coded messages for the streets. Every verse carried threats, references, and implied consequences. Listeners knew that these were more than just words. They were markers in a long-running rivalry that had already spilled into gunfire and real-world confrontations. And then there were the near misses. Dolph survived multiple attempts on his life. Over 100 rounds fired into his SUV in Charlotte in 2017, and another attack outside a Los Angeles hotel later that year. These weren't random acts. They were carefully coordinated hits. Courtroom testimony and later convictions would connect some of these events back to Big Jook and other CMG associates. For the first time, the web of involvement became public, linking names, bounties, and motives. After Dolph's death, the legal proceedings uncovered chilling details. Big Jook had allegedly placed a $100,000 bounty on Dolph, coordinating with shooters and middlemen. Phone records, video footage, and eyewitness testimony showed a clear plan. But when it came to Big Jook himself, the cycle of retaliation caught up. Surveillance footage from January 2024 shows him at the repass, greeting family and moving through the crowd, moments before he was killed. The patterns were undeniable. Violence had a way of coming full circle. Family and friends of Big Jook were devastated. Witnesses described the chaos of the shooting, the panic in the room, and the immediate grief. His mother was reportedly present, watching the horror unfold. Those moments frozen on camera reminded everyone how dangerous the streets could be, even during moments meant for mourning and reflection. Memphis law enforcement pursued leads, releasing images of the white Ford Explorer suspected in Big Jook's killing. But as of now, no one has been officially charged. The investigation remains cold, leaving the city with more questions than answers. Who pulled the trigger? Was it revenge? Was it someone trying to prevent further escalation? No one knows for sure. Meanwhile, Yo Gotti's response was measured but deliberate. He continued building CMG, supporting his artists and maintaining his wealth and influence. Yet the personal loss of Big Jook weighed heavily. Publicly, Gotti honored his brother, wearing custom jewelry with Big Jook's portrait, commemorating his memory on special occasions. Private pain, public perseverance, the balance was delicate and heartbreaking. The ripple effects went far beyond Memphis. The rap community, fans, and street-level observers all took note. Patterns of retaliation and public killings on camera became almost a tragic motif. Other artists and observers, like 21 Savage, commented on the senseless cycle of violence, warning younger generations to break free from the patterns that had claimed so many lives. But as history showed, once the cycle starts, it's almost impossible to fully stop. Big Jook's death also highlighted a larger truth. Street philosophy and the pursuit of wealth, power, and reputation come with costs. Dolph and Gotti had both reached levels many people only dream of: money, fame, influence. But neither could fully escape the consequences of decisions made years earlier. The streets, for all their rules and codes, don't recognize wealth as a shield. And yet, even amid tragedy, lessons emerge. The importance of loyalty, of understanding the human cost behind conflict, and of protecting family and legacy became clear. Gotti's message of getting out is the real flex resonated louder than ever. Money, fame, and success are important, but the ability to leave danger behind, to protect your people, and to preserve life, that is the ultimate measure. The streets of Memphis, and indeed the rap world, watch closely. Every move, every post, every public statement carried weight. Big Jook's death reminded everyone that even those with power and influence could be vulnerable. Even those who thought they had escaped the street's dangers could still be caught in a cycle that began years ago over a deal, a song, or a perceived insult. In reflecting on the events leading up to Big Jook's murder, it becomes clear this wasn't just a feud between two artists. It was a saga spanning decades, involving family, loyalty, music, business, and violence. It involved choices, both public and private, that ultimately determined who survived and who didn't. And it shows how one decision, like young Dolph rejecting Gotti's offer, can set off ripples that affect lives for years to come. As 2024 unfolded, the city of Memphis still felt the shockwaves from Big Jook's death. Social media never let the story fade. Clips, surveillance images, and eyewitness accounts kept the tragedy alive in the public eye. But behind the headlines, life at CMG went on. Yo Gotti remained focused on his empire, carefully navigating the line between business, family, and street credibility. Yet even for someone like him, the pain of losing his older brother was a constant reminder that wealth and success cannot erase personal loss. Big Jook's death highlighted the stark reality of street life. No one is immune. Young Dolph's murder years earlier had proven that. Big Jook, despite being older, experienced the same violent fate. The similarity wasn't lost on the city. Both deaths captured on camera, both viral moments, both stark reminders of how quickly power, influence, and life itself can be challenged. And for Gotti, the personal stakes had never been higher. In the months following the killing, law enforcement continued to follow leads, but progress was slow. The white Ford Explorer seen in the surveillance footage remained the only concrete clue. No suspects had been publicly identified, no arrests made, and motive officially remained a mystery. Investigators kept the details close to the vest, knowing that anything released to the public could compromise an ongoing inquiry. The case was, and still is, frustratingly cold. Meanwhile, Gotti quietly ensured that Big Jook's legacy was honored within CMG. Artists like Key Glock and Glorilla carried his memory forward through music and gestures. Glorilla, for example, had a custom diamond chain made featuring Big Jook's portrait, which she gifted to Gotti as a tribute. Gotti reportedly received it on his own birthday, but chose to wear it publicly on Big Jook's birthday. A subtle but powerful acknowledgement of his brother's impact and the love that remained despite the tragedy. Even as the business side of CMG thrived, the streets of Memphis remembered the warning signs. Big Jook had posted on Instagram just hours before his death. "Stay alert to stay alive. Watch your back at all times." Those words, haunting in hindsight, underscored the fragile nature of life for those caught in cycles of violence. 5 days prior, Big Jook had been actively working on music with Boozy, arranging a verse for a California collaboration. In just a matter of days, plans for music turned into memorials. The ripple effect on the Memphis rap community was significant. Boozy's immediate reaction was to warn others, like Big Boogie, to leave Memphis for safety. The understanding was clear. Once the smoke starts, it doesn't check IDs. The pattern was obvious. Young Dolph, Big Jook, King Von, and others, captured on camera, victims of cycles that rarely pause for grief. It was a grim reality that even those with influence or money could not escape. Yet Gotti's response emphasized survival and strategy. He had always preached that the ultimate goal of the streets was not to die young or to perpetuate violence, but to succeed and elevate your people. His philosophy was simple: get the bag, move your people out, and avoid unnecessary conflict. In this sense, Big Jook's death was a harsh reminder of why Gotti had long advocated for careful navigation of both the street and the music business. The legal side of the story continued to unfold as well. The trials of Justin Johnson, Hernandez Gavin, and Cornelius Smith revealed chilling details about the planning and execution of young Dolph's murder. The prosecution outlined how Big Jook had allegedly orchestrated the $100,000 hit, communicating directly with the shooters and offering money, record deals, and promises of future opportunities. The transparency of these court proceedings, while not directly implicating Gotti, illuminated the inner workings of CMG's more violent elements. The contrast between public perception and personal reality became clearer over time. Yo Gotti had cultivated a public image of calm, strategic leadership, emphasizing business and success over street feuds. But behind the scenes, the loss of Big Jook, combined with the exposure of past violence, was a constant reminder that the choices of years prior could never be fully erased. The streets remember everything, and the consequences often catch up in ways no amount of money or fame can prevent. Big Jook's story also brought attention to the concept of irony and cycles. He had been laughing about young Dolph online months after his death, an act that, in hindsight, was tragically prophetic. The very culture of retaliation, of proving dominance through visibility and action, made those caught in the system vulnerable. The lesson was stark. Pride and bravado often come with fatal consequences, and the street code that rewards toughness can also be unforgiving. In the years following these events, CMG's expansion continued. Gotti maintained a lower public profile in Memphis, focusing on growing the label's influence in Dallas and beyond. The strategy seemed to reflect his philosophy: shift focus to long-term growth and avoid unnecessary conflicts that could jeopardize everything built over decades. Despite the tragedy, the business continued to thrive, proving that resilience and planning could coexist with grief. Even as the music industry moved forward, the story of Big Jook remained a cautionary tale. The lessons were clear: wealth, fame, and success cannot replace life. Influence cannot protect against cycles of violence, and strategic thinking, loyalty, and awareness remain vital for survival. For Memphis and the broader hip-hop community, it was a sobering reminder that the streets are never fully left behind, even when success is achieved. Ultimately, Part 3 shows that while individuals like Yo Gotti can navigate the complexities of the music industry and street culture successfully, the cost of ambition, pride, and rivalry is tangible and lasting. Big Jook's death was not just another headline. It was a turning point, a lesson, and a symbol of the fragility of life in a world where music, money, and street codes collide. And now the story moves to the conclusion, where the ultimate messages about survival, legacy, and the cost of conflict come into focus. The streets, the law, and the music world all converge, reminding us that while you can build an empire, you cannot fully escape the shadows of your past. As we wrap up this story, it's clear that the cycle of violence in Memphis rap isn't just headlines. It's real life, real consequences, and real lessons. Young Dolph, Big Jook, and so many others remind us that the streets don't discriminate and that every choice carries weight. Success, fame, and money can protect in some ways, but they don't make you untouchable. Yo Gotti built an empire, elevated his people, and navigated a world where loyalty, strategy, and awareness are everything. For those watching, there's a lesson here beyond music and drama. Life moves fast, and respect, principles, and foresight matter. Protect your people, protect yourself, and understand the cost of pride and retaliation. Stories like this echo for years, shaping communities and leaving legacies. If this story resonated, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. Dive into the channels, follow the journeys, and keep exploring the real-life dramas behind the music. And remember, the lessons aren't just in the verses, they're in the lives lived, the choices made, and the legacies left behind. Stay alert, stay smart, and stay tuned.